Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's session. Myself, Radhika Nathani, from Corporate Communication team at IFA Global, would like to thank you all for being here on this platform. The topic for today's webinar is World-Class Treasury Practices to Navigate Current Challenging Times, part one of the two. Now, it gives me immense pleasure to introduce our today's speaker, Mr. Abhishek Goenka, founder and CEO at IFA Global. Under his leadership, IFA team has catered to over 1,000 clients and has managed a FX cumulative of over 20 billion USD. Mr. Goenka is well known for his views on various business channels and dailies like CNBC, ET Now, Economist, Money Control, and a chairman of well-known Treasury forum known as Treasury Elite. So, without any further delay, let's begin the session. I would like to invite Mr. Goenka.
Hi, everyone. How are you doing today? I'm sure markets have been very, very volatile since yesterday night and today. I think it's great seeing this kind of volatility, and probably it's often said that there are two kinds of forecasters in the market. One is who don't know what's going to happen, and the other is probably who do not know that they know. And probably that's going to be the topic for today's discussion. And how are we going to approach markets risk management, and how do we deal regarding risk reward ratios and risk management, and of course work on probabilities. So I'm just sharing the presentation for today. Okay. I hope you all can see the presentation. Just type yes, 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 so I can know that you are seeing the presentation. Superb, superb. Right, right. So today we're going to have a very, very interesting topic, which Radhika has obviously told you about the world-class practices in the risk management. So we are just not going to discuss about the dollar rupee view. Of course, we'll take that in the last. But today I'm going to show you some very, very interesting world-class practices, what companies do. And we in India, a lot of large companies also adopt these practices. So it's high time, because of this kind of uncertainty and volatility, mid-size and large companies should start looking at risk management in this way. And I promise you, in the end of 1 hour, your perspective about risk management and foreign exchange will completely change by a few interesting points that we're going to share today. So it's going to be more of a role play today. 1 second. Great. So let's make this entire presentation extremely interesting. Let's have a lot of participation from your side also. And we're going to do a role play today. So we have Mr. Rakesh Gupta, who's a very, very strong, budding and aspirational entrepreneur, like a lot of you people who are listening today. And we have a very promising CFO, Mr. Anil Desai, who's working with Mr. Rakesh Gupta. He spent some quality time in the US and London. And all you people who are listening to us here today, more than 130, I think, who are tuned up, thank you so much, are his friends. So you are going to help Mr. Rakesh Gupta and Mr. Anil Desai give some perspectives about foreign exchange risk management. And time and again, we will have some polls. Please help them with the polls so that they can take right risk management practice. People who have logged in from the mobile can zoom in a little bit, and people who are in the desktop and the laptops, they can, I think, see it perfectly fine. Just say yes if you can hear me completely. Great, great. So Mr. Gupta runs a software company. For the last 15 years, he's developed a great company, and he's always thinking about how can he improve the company, its practices, and move forward. And Mr. Desai, as I said, is helping with him. He has got a very good operating margin, approximately 20%. And he also has one company which, along with his cousin, imports stuff from China. And he sells in the local market. Now, Mr. Gupta, when he was going in a flight to the US, he was running these kind of thoughts in his mind, in regards to his FX policy, in regards to his volatility in the market, because cases were coming in the US and suddenly his thoughts becoming like this. And I also want to know from you, you are Mr. Gupta's friends over here, what is your number one challenge when it comes to the FX risk management like Mr. Gupta is having? So Amit, would you like to take a poll? So we're going to do one poll from you and we can come to know that what is your main concern when it comes to your foreign exchange risk management. Superb. I hope everybody can see the poll. I would request you to kindly participate so that we make this next 1 hour extremely interesting. Can you see the poll? Superb. Excellent. I can already see the audience is very, very active. Super. We have got 27 out of 124. Excellent. Everybody is polling. I see that most of these queries everybody is having. And this is what we're going to cover in the next 1 hour. And it's going to be an extremely interesting session. Just stay tuned. Super. 67 out of 125 polls. I think it's a lovely audience. Everybody is looking forward to see this particular subject, I guess. It's very, very relevant in the current COVID times. Super. Excellent. 85 out of 126. Yeah. Just take another 15 seconds. Broadly, it's very surprising that all the 5 questions have broadly got a 20% weightage. That means all the topics that we're going to discuss today is going to be so relevant to your business. Right. You have 91 people who have polled out of 129. My dear friends, please participate so that we can have not a monologue session, but a two-way session from all of you. Super. Super. Okay, I'm ending the poll. I'm sharing the results. So broadly, we can see almost everybody has 20-25% people are having the similar kind of problem. So we're going to, this is going to be the subject today going forward. So I'll continue further. Excellent. So when Mr. Gupta was returning back from the US, along with him was an ex-RBI governor. And he was reading a book and Mr. Gupta had just a glance on the book and he started looking at the book, and the book was talking about foreign exchange and bond markets risk management. Of course, Mr. Gupta, an ex-alumni of Harvard and an engineer from IIT Kharagpur, was getting very, very keen to just have a glance in the book, and the book had this particular page on it. And then the ex-RBI governor and Mr. Gupta were having a very good conversation in the 24-hour flight from the US. And the governor was telling him that what are the best practices of risk management that companies have been following in India and the US. And he became extremely inquisitive to know more about it. So the one final takeaway that the governor gave him was you need to follow a proper risk management strategy once you are looking at foreign exchange or interest rates in your book. So he was very excited and he went to office and he called his CFO, Mr. Anil Desai. And Mr. Anil Desai was also a very prospective and forward-looking person. And he said, please get my balance sheet and I would like to know that where are my foreign exchange risks in my balance sheet. So Mr. Desai quickly got the balance sheet with the help of the other treasurers in the company, and they started identifying the kind of risk that is there in the balance sheet. So of course they saw that they have risk in terms of rupee floating rate interest rates, dollar interest rate risk in terms of LIBOR. They start seeing that they have short-term payables in form of imports, or they had working capital mismatch between their investments were for long term and their liabilities were short term. Nowadays, we are seeing this a lot in NBFC companies like ILFS, DFHL, and all. Payables, of course, imports were having foreign exchange risk. We had receivables and inventories. Inventories had huge commodity risk. So Mr. Gupta was extremely excited, at the same time concerned about all this risk, because he was getting some symptoms of the increasing COVID in various developed markets. He also asked about the income statement. And in the income statement, he also saw that his revenue, which is the exports, and his cost of goods sold gets really impacted with the huge movement of the foreign exchange risk, and also the raw material and the interest rate. So broadly understood that export, import, interest rate, commodity risk are various risks which he runs. So going forward, Mr. Gupta also saw that the book that he was reading saw, like you all polled, that these are the various challenges. Market volatility, when to hedge strategy, was something which is a big concern across global companies in America. And since we learn from developed markets, I think this is something which even India, people are having a huge concern. So since he is having a background of quants, he thought, okay, let's have a quantitative approach because people are moving towards it. I mean, globally, people are slowly moving towards quants. But today, we're not going to discuss quants. We're going to discuss about basic common sense, because understanding quants is not important. But if with common sense, we are going to manage our foreign exchange risk, I think it's going to be a win-win situation. And that's the purpose today. So the next is measuring your risk appetite. Now, Mr. Gupta is a great networker. He has various set of friends like you, all of you people who are listening today. He likes to discuss, brainstorm, hear everyone, and then do what his common sense is. He does a get together with his CII friends. A lot of these people are export imports, like all of you people. And then he does a poll again. He asks them that what are your main processes of benchmarking your export and import. So my dear friends, we're going to have another poll and hear about what is your benchmarking process, on what basis you do your foreign exchange benchmarking. Quickly, Amit, can you put the poll, please? Super. I'd love to have your participation once again. It will be a great knowledge sharing session for everyone if all of you people poll. And we're going to learn that how you people benchmark your foreign exchange costing. And then I'm going to tell you what people have and what kind of process they follow. Super. I think it's an excellent audience. And I really love the people. They're active and they're polling. We got 60 out of 141. Very nice. We have 146 participants. It's amazing. If you're all able to see the poll, just type yes, 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 so that we know that everybody is on. If there's any problem, my team can help you. All these people have been working very hard to make sure it's a quality presentation. And you are able to gather something out of it. Super. We got more than 145 people now, and we got 100 polls. Excellent. Excellent. Wait for another 10 seconds and then we can discuss. 40% of the people feel that spot plus premium is something that they take as a benchmark. In fact, even I see that. A lot of people have cost plus profit in USD. Okay, I'm in the polling. Okay, I hope you can see the results. Say yes, so I know. Say yes, 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 so I know you can see the results. Super. Thanks, Dharmendra. Thanks, Prashant. Thanks, Akash. Thanks, Siddharth. Okay, so we see that spot plus premium is something that is a common use benchmark, and we know that because when we talk to our clients across the country, we commonly see that spot plus benchmarking is a hugely commonly accepted tool for benchmarking, and also cost plus profit in US dollar, their cost of production. Yes, Rajiv, thank you. Okay, then we are continuing. So we basically saw that these were the common ways, like I said, in terms of how people are using their benchmarks. And as you said, that cost plus profit is something that you are using. Up along with that, 40% of the people felt that spot plus premium is something which that people are using. So this is a very interesting uh, 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 point which you need to take back home. So let's assume this is a company whose cost of goods sold is 100 rupees. 75 rupees is a spot rate, 3 rupees is a premium that you get for 1 year. Your INR cost of funding, let's assume, is 6%. You need to make sure that you at least get 106 to make normal profit. Now let's take there are three kinds of companies over here. One is a company which is dealing in something which is like a commodity. I mean, he is very, very aggressive in terms of his cost. His buyers ask him every single margin he has to pass to the buyer. So he would typically price it at 78 rupees. He will pass all the premium that is possible and quote very, very less. He has no room to play around in terms of his cost. Whereas, say, a company who's dealing in a branded basmati rice, for example, he has a lot of room. He is not passing the premium. He is calculating at a lower cost. And then he has a lot of option to play around. He can partly take options. He can keep his positions open. But the company who has a very tight cost, when he's costing at 1.36, he has no room to play. He has to do a back-to-back hedging, or 1 or 2 days he can hold on. Whereas this company who has a huge profitability, he can take long-term options, he can play around. So he has a very high risk appetite. Not all companies will have a high risk appetite, but some companies might have. And for those kind of companies, there are different strategies that we are going to cover. Similarly, for an importer who is importing something from China, say, just because he was starting to, at the starting of COVID, say he was importing mask. At that time, he had huge margins. And then he was having a huge appetite because he was taking into account the premium plus his profits and then selling in the market. But slowly and steadily, in 1.5 months, lots of people got into the business and it became a commodity trade. Then he is not able to protect his basic margin also. In fact, he has no room to even add the entire cost and sell in the market. He ends up doing some options or trying to make money in the foreign exchange market, but it becomes very risky for him. A lot of these traders who are in the business of edible oil, imports, or say imports which are having very low thin margin, are falling in the low profitability category. I hope this is clear. Say yes, because it's important to know. Super. So we had seen both the kind of risk appetite. One is very high risk, moderate risk, and low risk. And most of you people come in this particular criteria. Now, the next part is that you know your risk appetite because your cost is defined, you know the rates in the market. But are everyone having the same risk tolerance? You might be making 20% of the profit, like we saw in the IT industry. But then there could be three different type of promoters with three different cultures. And for example, Mr. Gupta, he is a man who has a high risk appetite. He falls in this particular box. He is saying, okay, I make a huge profit. I am ready to lose 6% of my EBIT. So that's approximately 90 crores out of his 1500 crores top line. But then some other person would be something where he said, I am want to play safe. I don't want to take so much of risk. Similarly, over here, somebody in agri commodity business who has 6-7% of only profitability, and he is ready to take a huge risk because that's the culture which he belongs to. At the same time, the other agricultural commodity person could be a person who says, no, 6% is my only profit. I am okay to risk 2%. I don't want to risk 2%. That's my worst case. That's my stop loss. So they're different kind of people with having different risk appetite. So it's very important that this culture, since it comes from the top, the entire core senior management should clearly understand that. And on the basis of that, your foreign exchange strategy should be prepared. So we'll do another poll and understand what is your risk appetite. My dear friends, what I want you to write is what is your benchmark? What is your risk appetite in a piece of paper or scribble it on your laptop so that this is the good world class process that people follow and it will refresh your mind once you write it down that what was your benchmarking process, what was your risk appetite, what was your tolerance, so that once you take a decision, you will be very, very well placed to take a decision. The next time when you tell your CFO or you yourself is a CFO, ask this question to your promoter. How much is your risk appetite? How much is his risk tolerance? So that next time when you have to take a decision, you can take it in a most scientific manner. And that's the way the large companies take. So Amit, can you put a poll again so that we can know what Mr. Rakesh Gupta's friends risk appetite and risk tolerances. So please mention which column is your risk tolerance. I hope everybody can see all the tolerance, say yes, yes, yes. There are 163 people now. Excellent. I love the audience today. I mean, they're so active. I mean, it's really fun to do these sessions with you. Last time even I did, there was almost 400 people online and everybody was so active. I mean, I love the audience who come and they actively participate so that everybody gets a real market idea. I mean, it's beautiful with your knowledge and with the activeness. I think you are helping all the 163 people today who are online. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, it calls for a big round of applause for everyone. It's amazing. It's amazing. We have 85 people. Super. Once big round of applause for everyone. I think we can just show a clap or just write clap, clap, clap so that everybody, it deserves, everybody deserves that, I guess. It's amazing. It's amazing. So we have 160 people now and 91 people have answered. My dear friends, please share your thoughts, which quadrant you are falling in terms of your risk appetite versus your risk tolerance. It's very, very important. I mean, you just can't take a call in the market. You have to know what's your risk appetite and risk tolerance. In stock markets, when you want to trade, you put your stop loss. You need to know what your risk tolerance and risk appetite is. Super. Thanks, Rohit. Thanks, Rohit. So, we got 96. We'll do another 10 seconds last. Superb. I'm going to end this poll. I'm sharing the results with you. I hope everybody can see the results. So, 26% of the people were falling in the quadrant on the box, moderate appetite and tolerance moderate. So we are not gamblers here. We all want to take risk. We want return, but then we don't want to go all in. And that's the nature of promoters and CFOs because nobody can predict the market, as I said earlier. And in fact, 18% of the people come in the low quadrant. Appetite is low, tolerance is low. Because where is the profit today? I mean, it is so uncertain time that people are struggling and they just want to make sure that the business is running and they're able to make normal profits. That's right. But there are some people who are also in the first matrix where 3% of the people have high profitability but low appetite. So, super. So once we are clear that what particular box you are in, it's important to understand what your hedge ratio is. So I'll continue with the rule is that once again, Mr. Gupta was sitting with his friends at the club and he had called all his exporter friends this time, which is almost 60-70% of the audience who are listening to us, 160 people. So around 100 people were there and they were all talking about their business challenges and how do they do hedging. So Mr. Gupta was asking them because he is a person who loves to take opinion. He was asking them that you tell me, what is an ideal hedge ratio? So these were the basic questions which were coming. So somebody just said, oh, I am not sure. Nobody can predict market, so I do 50-50. One of the friends, he has 10 bankers and he said, my banker saying, it's a guy who's sitting in Singapore, 80% chance the rupee is going to depreciate. So let's keep 80% of the position open. One of my director of finance, who was also 2% equity holder, he said, I have to answer to the board. I mean, if I get it wrong, I'm going to lose my bonus. Let's not do anything. My dear friends, not doing anything is also doing something. So no action is also an action. And somebody who had a recency effect, he said, last time I made a loss. This time I am going to cover something. Friends, when have you heard these kind of phrases in your company, in your management, among your friends? Just type yes if you have also heard these kind of discussions in your boardroom or in your partners or in your friends or with your banks. Lots of yes coming. Yes, always. Yeah. Excellent. Even we hear this when we meet companies in India all the time. In terms of importers, similar kind of situation happens. People say, I don't want to pay hedging cost. It's too high. Who will pay 3.5-4% premium? Rupee doesn't move anywhere. Once in 4 years, rupee moves. That time we will see. And that time we will come there. RBI is there to protect in the market. Why to hedge? But if we have $500 billion of reserve, what do you think the rupee is going to depreciate? No, it is not going to depreciate. Somebody says, Baba, FX is not my domain. I don't want to do anything. I want to do back to back. If I get wrong, management is going to screw me. My dear friends, these were his importer friends who were saying him. And Mr. Gupta understands facts, polls, listens to everybody. So he is confused what to do. Sometimes I cover, sometimes I don't cover. I need to have a system in place. My friends, did you hear this from your importer friends? From your management? Ever? I know companies who have got very good margins. They say, let's do back-to-back cover every time. Let's not participate in the market. And 2014 to 2017, the rupee did not depreciate and they lost 3% every year. At the same time, if they keep all in, years like 2008, 2013, 2018, or 2019 happens, and they lose a lot of their alpha. So what to do? What is the right answer? Let's see. I hope everybody is enjoying the discussion till now and everybody is tuned. I'm trying to keep things extremely interesting for all of you. Superb. Now, This discussion also you will be having in your boardroom. Mr. Desai talks to Mr. Rakesh Gupta and tells him, Mr. Gupta, we are having 375 crores as our profit. The company has grown so well. I think foreign exchange is something which should give another 70, 80 crores or 100 crores to our EBIT. I think we can do it. Mr. Gupta says, how, Mr. Desai? Mr. Desai says, Arey Baba, I will make 100 crores. You leave it on me. Mr. Gupta is a person who is from IIT and from Harvard. He understands the language of numbers and quants. He says, Mr. Desai, I have full trust on you. But you need to tell me your modus operandi. How are you going to make the additional 100 crores? I'm extremely excited to know. Arey bhai, we will sell dollars na, at higher levels. Means higher levels mean at what levels? Whenever the market goes to 77, 78, 79, we will cover dollars. But then it will come down, then we will cancel it. Or we will make some money over there. When will you cancel it? We will cancel it when the market comes to 74, 75. Then Mr. Gupta says, Mr. Desai, how are you sure that the market will go to 78, 79 and not go to 80, 81, 82? Yes, sir, the entire market is feeling that. I'm talking to a lot of people in the market and everybody is saying this. Mr. Gupta, Mr. Desai, what is your probability? Yes, sir, there is a good probability, I'm telling you. If I don't make money, you cut my bonus. Mr. Gupta says, see, Mr. Desai, I fully trust you. But the point is, my father lost a lot of business in the money in the stock market in the 1990s. And I have learned one thing from there. Define your stop loss. So today, if I make 375 crores in my EBIT, I am ready to lose 6% of it. But you have to be 90% sure that I will not lose more than 90 crores of my 1500 crore top line. If you are 90% sure and you can define a proper strategy, I am okay to give you this chance. But if you are not able to show me a strategy with my downside protected to the extent of 90 crores, we are not going to have this discussion again. Make sense, my dear friends? What Mr. Rakesh Gupta is asking Mr. Desai, does it make sense? Mr. Vinay Desai, does it make sense? Just type yes, yes, yes. Mr. Rakesh Gupta wants to protect his downside. He wants to have your clear stop loss with a probability attached to it. That 90%, because nobody can be right 100%. By 90% to batao that things are okay. But if you do not have any plan, strategy, then how can I ask you to gamble on my books? You know? So this is the concept of value at risk, my dear friends. It's no rocket science. Value at risk is nothing but the total amount of potential loss, the probability that which you are sure, and the time frame. In this case, it is 1 year. Mr. Rakesh Gupta's company business cycle is 1 year. So he gets his order, say at January, he gets his payment in December. Of course, all of you will have different business cycles, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. But for explanation purpose, since it's a software company, we have taken an example. If he gets an order in January, his payments come in December. So the entire discussion is going to be on that. You can extrapolate it based on your business, whether you have receivables for 3 months, orders of 3 months, or 6 months, or 9 months. And if there is any question, you can always come back with. So I hope the concept of VAR is right. Yes, Mr. Dharmendra Rakesh Gupta is perfectly right. I agree to you. So he says, Mr. Desai says, sir, if you want that kind of clarity, it's better we hire a consultant. So a consultant is called, one of the best in the country, and said, Mr. Rakesh Gupta is asking us to decide the downside risk. I have proposed this 100 odd crores, but then he wants something in writing and a clear strategy, a flow. So consultant said, okay, great. So he showed this particular graph, fund A, fund B. He asked the board that, can you see both the funds have given 10% return? The board says yes. But it takes no rocket science to understand which fund are you going to invest. My dear friends, which fund are you going to invest? Fund A, 34% in year 4. Or fund B, hey, nobody will invest in fund B. Fund A, everybody wants to invest in fund B. Why? One liner, why? Anjali, Rohit, Sandeep, why? Less risk, consistency, discounting, steady cash flows, consistent. My dear friends, nobody wants uncertainty. In the stock markets also, nobody wants uncertainty. When there is uncertainty, markets fall down by 20%. In foreign exchange, if there is uncertainty, rupee becomes to 77, 78. Every company, every country, every investor wants certainty. Over here also, fund B is an obvious choice. But the question is, do you know the risk of every asset class? If I ask you, do you know the risk in dollar rupee? Put a number to it. 5%, 6%, 7%, 8%. What is the risk of dollar rupee? Have you ever thought? Is the risk of Nifty and dollar rupee same? Is the risk of copper and dollar rupee same? Is the risk of Reliance and dollar rupee same? Say yes or no. Do you know? Put a number. 8%, 9%, 10%, 11%. What is the risk of dollar rupee? Anybody? Bharat, Sandeep, Akash, say no. No, 8%. Chandan, 8%. The question is, how did you calculate 8%? Aman says 10%. 5. Maybe Aman is right. Let's see. We will see this today. What is the risk on dollar rupee? So when you actually manage your positions, you will know the risk. My dear friends, you are going to tell me, this 160 people who are online, what is going to be the risk of dollar rupee? And I can assure you that you will be comfortably able to tell me what is the risk of dollar rupee. You don't require any mathematical model. You know, Amit, can you put a poll of where did you feel the rupee is going to be after 1 year? Yes, Rohit, we will come back to that. How does you calculate? Superb. Superb. Excellent. We are having 103 people out of 160 voted. Superb. Please keep voting. You are going to tell me what is the risk. Your poll will tell the risk of dollar rupee. I'm not going to give you the answers right now because I want to know that what people are feeling about the view. And then suddenly you will see that predicting dollar rupee movements with volatility is no brainer. And based on that, you can manage your EBIT, your profitability, and bring certainty in your business. Excellent. It's a very, very important poll. I request everybody to submit. It's 120 people out of 155 people who have voted. We'll take the fundamental questions later. Let's focus on this discussion. It's very, very important. You know, I'm trying to make things extremely simple for you so that you can have some excellent takeaways for today's session. And I have a lovely audience. They all are polling actively. So I'll stop the poll now. We are having 122 people who have polled out of 156. My dear friends, 61%, I'm sharing the results. I hope everybody can see it. And this is a very, very important survey. I would like you to pay attention. 61% of the people feel that dollar rupee is going to be in a range of 71 to 81. Is it a no-brainer? No, right? It's no-brainer. 29% of the people feel it's going to be in the range of 69 to 75. And 8% of the people feel it's going to be 81 to 87. Correct? Everybody can see it? Say yes. Just type why, so that I know. Superb. Thank you. Only 3% of the people felt that dollar rupee is going to be below 69 and above 87. Now, I want to ask you one question. What is the probability that Rajesh Gupta's friends feel that rupee is going to be in the range of 69 to 87? What is the probability? What is the chances that rupee is going to be in the range of 69 to 87? What is the chances? Just write a number. 97%. So poll says 97% people feel that dollar rupee is going to be in this range. So can we say that there is a 97% probability that the rupee is going to be in this range from the poll that all my exporter and importer friends have given over here? Can we say there's a 97% probability? Say yes, say why. It's a very important concept. Please wait. Super. Everybody says there's a 97% probability. Okay, we move forward. So you have decided there's a 90% probability that rupee is going to be in this range. When we run some basic calculation of dollar rupee, and dollar rupee, it's a statistical concept of a standard, distribution. It follows a probability distribution, a normal distribution. So the mathematics tells us that it has a 90% probability that dollar rupee will not go above 88 for an importer, and 90% probability that dollar rupee is not going to get below 69. So mathematics tells us that this is the probability, and you tell me that 97% probability is there. So there is not much difference between a poll that I took and what mathematics tells us. So there is a 10% probability that dollar rupee is going to be below 69, and 90% of the probability dollar rupee is going to be above 69. Simple. For an importer, there is a 10% probability that dollar rupee is going to be above 88, 87, and 90% probability is there. So once you know that what is going to be a range of dollar rupee with a 90% probability, which we just saw, you only decided that. Can we calculate my worst case scenario and my best case scenario? We'll see. Don't get zapped looking at the numbers on your screen. It is a very simple concept. If there is any issue, you can always get back to us. But do not bother about calculations, because you have decided the number, and calculations are no-brainer. It takes 2 minutes to do it. Mr. Rakesh Gupta falls in this quadrant, which is 20% profit and high appetite, high risk. Do you agree? Say yes. Why? Agreed? You will also be in one of the quadrants. You will decide which quadrant you are. You can do calculation accordingly. Earlier, you used to cut forward premiums. You used to get 79 rupees, 76 plus 4. Now, any asset class, once you put your money in, you want to know the return, right? Do you know what was the dollar rupee return over the last 15 years? Any idea? What was the dollar return in a dollar rupee pair in the last 15 years? It's very simple. People who have been in the business can know from observation itself that what is the return. No rocket science. Return. how much did dollar appreciate versus rupee in the last 15 years on an average? My dear friends, Siddharth says 5 to 6%. Siddharth is an importer. 12% per annum, 4%. Rohit says 4%. 4 to 5%, 8%. Dilip says 8%. Subhash 4%. 7.5%. Friends, a simple calculation of average annual mean movement tells me 3.9% is the dollar rupee depreciation over the last 15% on an average. So the premium that you get is very similar to the premium that you are seeing in the market is the depreciation. Because the law of economics says that premiums are not free. If you are able to make consistent money by selling dollars in premium, then it's an easy thing. Now everybody will sell dollars and make money in premium. But in a long term, only you make money if the premiums are quoting at 5, 5.5, 6%. But broadly in a long term, if the premium is 3.9%, it's a zero-sum game. Agree or not agree? Say yes or no. I'm talking about a long term. Yes, yes, yes. Thanks, Sunil. Thanks, Sandeep. Chandan, Aman. Excellent. Now, return ka to ho gaya. Now we have understood the return. The question is, you have an exposure of 1,000 crores, 2,000 crores, 3,000 crores, 100 crores, 200 crores. You are playing on an asset which is going to be volatile. You know, if Nifty moves by 10%, you are saying, okay, yesterday it was, last week it was 10,300, now it is 9,500, now it's 9,900. You know the volatility in the market. Can you tell me the risk of dollar rupee? After this discussion, you should be able to tell me the risk of dollar rupee. For an exporter, what is the risk? And for the importer, what is the risk? Put it in a number. What is the risk of dollar rupee? Friends, put in a number. Risk of dollar rupee. Volatility of dollar rupee, not the return. The volatility of dollar rupee. Over the last 15 years, what has been the volatility of dollar rupee? Thanks, Sanjay. Thanks, Pranay. Yes, the volatility of dollar rupee for an exporter is 10%. So on the downside, when the rupee is at 76, 69 is a level which is a 90% probability that rupee will not break. And for an importer, you have to add 4% to it because the dollar rupee return per year is 4%. So 10 plus 4 is 14%. So the number comes to around 87, 88 for an importer. So when an importer takes a decision, like Mr. Rakesh Gupta also has an import company. So he has to think both sides, export and import. So he has to calculate that there is 90% chance, 69, and there's a 90% chance, 87 on the higher side. So 10 and 14% is the risk for a dollar rupee for an exporter and an importer using a simulated value using normal distribution. These are 500 variables. Let's not get into the mathematics of it. The poll itself said that. Okay, but still, for the sake of mathematics, this has been done, which tells you that there is a 90% profit. Now, earlier what Mr. Gupta was doing, he was selling the premium. You people would have different risk appetite. Accordingly, his business margin was 25%, right? Now, what Mr. Anil Desai wanted to do was to increase his profitability. And Mr. Gupta was okay with it. He's a businessman. He said, okay, you want to 100 crores? Define my low risk appetite. Define my loss should not go below 6% or 90 crores. So I'm okay with it. So as he called the consultant told him the return, the benchmark, and all these things, and the risk. Now the consultant says that since our rate of downside and upside is fairly calculated, I will make a combination of strategies, simple, to tell you that your risk is not going to be exceeding 90 crores and upside is fully open. So he says, okay, that's pretty good. How? So he says, okay, let's put in some numbers. He gives this combination based on the matrix you are in, based on the quadrant. And in case of Mr. Gupta, who's in high, this particular risk reversal, vanilla and forward, People who don't understand options, don't bother, I'll take it later. But he clearly tells him, this is the combination you work with a 90% probability. You will not lose money more than 90 crores. Upside is fully open. Mr. Gupta says, fine, agreed. Show me. He says, okay. He puts in a number and says, what if rupee goes to 60, say 70? And he goes up and he sees, and you see this number, 18.7%. What was his earlier profitability? 25%. Now his profitability is gone by 6%. He's like, okay. And we have seen that there's a 90% chance कि उसके नीचे नहीं जाएगा market. You know, he says, what if the rupee goes to 86? He says, very good. From 25%, his profitability goes up by 7%. He risked 6%, he got 7%. What if it goes to 90? 35%. Mr. Gupta and Mr. Desai is having a lovely time. They'll make 35%. Now, a lot of you people must be thinking that it is a 90% probability. What if a Six Sigma event happens and the rupee goes to 68? Okay, let's see. Six Sigma event happened like COVID, rupee comes to 68 or goes to 93, or something very good happens. You know, 2 lakh, 3 lakh crores of inflows come in the market, rupee comes to 68. Your margin is still 18%. My dear friends, how much did Mr. Gupta was ready to lose? 7%. And how much is he lost? 6%. How much has he lost? 7%. 1% more. It's fine. It's worth taking the risk. He was ready to lose 6%, he lost 7%. Big deal. But then a 95% chance comes that he is not lost more than 7%. And that's phenomenal. And this is the way, my friends, should be your risk management. That no matter what happens tomorrow, what Trump tweets, what Russia does, what China does, what RBI does, your business is protected. And this is the way, my dear friends, the large companies in the America and Europe have traveled, and I've seen it across 6-7 countries outside. And in India, very large companies, they run this kind of model. And this is the takeaway I wanted to give you for today. Of course, we have a lot coming by, but then this is very, very important. So to sum up, this is your hedge ratio, the way you have to decide your appetite, tolerance, what you have written on the piece of paper. You decide how much of the money you want to risk. You decide the risk of the asset class you are doing it. This is for dollar rupee. You could have euro, you could have pound, you could have Japanese yen. Do you know the risk? Do you know the return? Do you know your downside risk? Do you know your stop loss? And run a simple mathematical model. You can hire a consultant for that. No big deal. Decide your worst case and optimal risk and options. You can just run a goal seek or some kind of a model on Excel and you can get. But the big part is, my friends, there is no surprises. You are comfortable to understand your risk. So he was comfortable with 25% profit, say he got 32% on an upside of 87, on a downside, he got 18%, 6% doesn't breach, he's happy. Low risk, high risk, moderate, you can see the graph. The graph moves like this, high risk, higher return, low risk, lower return. The blue is the low risk, the green is the high risk. Now comes understanding of options. Now, understanding options is simple. You just have to give some time. And today, our main objective is not to understand options. I'm going to quickly run through the option because Mr. Gupta doesn't understand options. But he has very smart people in his company who can understand options. So he asked the consultant, okay, can you arrange a workshop for them? Consultant said, okay. A quick workshop of 2 days, they understood options. These are various options available in the market. I'm not going to go in details, but understanding options is important because without options, you will not be able to achieve what I just said. So you have to achieve that. So you have to be able to understand the basic of options. Now, if you keep positions open, this is your line, your maximum risk is open. If you keep your forward covered, you don't have any participation. You do a plain vanilla put, your downside is protected, your upside you are participating. Risk reversal, you get a range. These are various options. I'm not getting into details. We can always discuss it later. But a basic combination for people who are attending can just look at this for low, moderate, high risk. These things work. This is important. At lower level, don't try to do forwards, do options. At higher level, do forwards. And at the middle level, do range forwards. It's as simple as that. A lot of companies, a lot of my clients ask us, we tell them, and this is what we are sharing with you. For importers, it's similar. Vanilla puts, call spreads, seagulls, risk reversals. Of course, this is going to be recorded. A recording will be sent to you. So don't need to put in a head understanding options right now. It's simple. Lower level, do forwards. Higher level, do options. In the middle, do seagulls. Now, what is revenue hedging? You have a business where you have orders of 3 months, right? 3 months order you have, but you are concerned after 3 months, what will be the market? After 3 months, the business that I'm going to do, what I am going to quote to the buyer. If the market is going to be 70, I am in trouble. If the market is going to be 80, it's good. But is it the way to do business? A company of Rakesh Gupta, he has a business cycle of 1 year. January he gets the order, December he gets the payment. But Rakesh Gupta is now concerned. He is a person in the last 15 years, he has built a beautiful company. Now in the next 15 years, he wants to become a company like a TCS, Infosys, Wipro, etc. So what he wants to do now? He asked his friends and his board, Desai, अरे भाई अभी इन्वेस्टर्स लाने का है, आईपीओ लेके आने का है, रोज का डॉलर रूपी वोलेटिलिटी इज नॉट व्हाट आई वांट. I want certainty in my revenue realizations. Tell me a strategy that there is certainty. Tomorrow, I don't know, COVID is going to be finished, rupee is going to come to 70. You don't know RBI is going to build up reserve $600 billion and there's going to be so much of flows that rupee is going to come down. Tomorrow, there could be a downgrade and rupee goes to 80. It is very confusing. Give me a proper strategy. I need visibility. I need this. I can't come on CNBC and tell people that rupee came down to 70 and that's the reason my EBIT is not protected. Investors don't like it. And he has plans to get private equity and slowly then get an exit through IPO. So for a revenue hedging, he has an exposure of 200 million, say the business cycle is 1 year. 220 million is what he's expecting. And he doesn't want swings in FX. He's never wanted that. So the consultant tells him that, sir, you have good margins. Just take a 76 rupees, may you go and buy a premium, pay a premium 1 rupee. And this 1 rupee, I put it on a higher side. Sometimes the cost is 70 paisa, 60 paisa, 80 paisa like that at the money option. And you protect your business for which you don't have the orders. My dear friend, this is not for the receivable hedging, which you have orders. This is for the business that you don't have orders. And business that you are going to do in January 2021, say, or say in June 2021, in his case, you pay the premium. Now look at the simple maths. No rocket science. His dollar turnover is same. Agreed? Say yes. Say yes, yes, yes. His revenue is going to change because dollar rupee is going to change. Agreed? His operating expense is standard under COVID, since a lot of his cost is going to be employee salary. Under COVID, he is not going to increase the salary much. The operating expense is going to be same. Agreed? Say yes. Now, if dollar rupee comes to 70, his EBIT falls down. Hey, bhai, he was earning how much? 316 crores. Because of dollar rupee, he is getting 174 crores. On CNBC, will come and talk. Sir, my EBIT has come to 174 crore because of foreign exchange losses. How will the market react? Stock will fall by 20%. He doesn't want that. Then consultant says pay 22 crores premium, 1 rupee premium for the business that you have not done. Okay, after hedging, how much he gets? 28 crores. Worse than 31 crores. But look at this. Without hedging, EBIT falls by 45%. With hedging, only 10%. Now, my friends, why is it important to do this? There are three reasons. One is no volatility in your next year or next business cycle or next orders earnings. Number two, investors are very, very happy. Number three, the rupee comes to 70, all that customers that your competition can go and was doing business with, you can go and grab that customer. Because what is your realization? 76 minus 175. And what will your competition quote? At 70 rupees. Are you a winner or not? Say yes or no. You will make that extra money, you will reduce the price, get the customer. And that's the objective of every CFO and business person who's sitting there. Get the customer by doing the right hedging. It goes to 85, everybody is getting 85, big deal. Your volatility is earning is not going to be much. If you are going to gain, everybody is going to gain. But if market goes to 70, only you are going to gain because you had a put option by paying that 1 bit. Is options complicated? The answer is no. Okay. The takeaway from this is make your investors happy, make no volatility in your earnings, and have a good night's sleep. That's the objective here. So in case of 220 million, this is the volatility in earnings without hedging, with hedging, downside, upside. You clearly see, we understood the concept of standard deviation and risk. The risk is here at 70 more than the risk is here at 84. Agreed? Superb. Now last. Mr. Gupta said, अरे वाह, मजा आ गया. Benchmarking हो गया, risk appetite हो गया, risk tolerance हो गया. You have decided, you have made my life comfortable. Receivable hedging हो गया, revenue hedging हो गया. Everything is protected. But Babu, I traveled 200 days out of 365 days in abroad. I need a good MIS. All promoters and CFOs are too busy. They want MIS. Give me an MIS. Consultant says, okay, no problem. Short MIS in your mobile, detailed MIS in Excel, updated on a regular basis. Take your MIS. Then Mr. Gupta says, Baba, I have a friend today. He's in textile business. He's extremely tensed. His business from Europe and US is falling. Can you help him also? Consultant says yes. He has these kind of issues running in his mind. What will happen if the rupee goes to up? There will be MTM. What if rupee goes down? Should I keep the same cover? Should I keep averaging my positions? What if rupee goes to 87? Will my banker calls me for mark to market? Should I start taking option? Some bankers are saying take options. I don't know. I'm extremely confused. Mr. Gupta says, we have some good people. They can help you. Like, okay. So he says, okay. And then the consultant makes one of these screens and shows to the company. Now, look at this. His coverage was 65%. A lot of you people would have similar kind of a situation. Say yes if you agree with me. Yes, yes, yes. Now over here, you can see that his coverage was 65. Now the discussion in the boardroom is happening. Should I bring it to 40%? What will be the loss? Nobody knows the answer. We are doing calculation. The scenario analyzer will tell it in 1 minute. Okay, 40%. Your loss, your cancellation will be $40 million out of $192 million. Your loss would be around 13 odd crores. Question, the decision can be taken. He says, okay, I want to take a 10% option, plain vanilla put. Okay, you pay a loss, you pay a premium of how much? 4 crores. So you paid a loss of 13 crores, you paid a premium of 4 crores, 17 crores gone. Okay. No, I want to bring it to 30%. Okay. This was the turnover, this was the hedge position, this was the old hedge rate, this was the effective rate today if he covers 100%. So by doing this scenario, he came to know that my net expected spot rate would become this in today's scenario. So the management asked, hey bhai, in the second quarter, the rupee goes to say 77, third quarter goes to 78, fourth quarter goes to 79. People who are not able to see in mobile can zoom in. Fourth quarter becomes 85. And if I do this strategy, what will be my net effective realization rate? He says 78.92. Promoter says, okay, done. Book the loss. And mind it, my friends, the loss and the premium that the company paid has been taken into the costing. So after doing this, the company has in a position to take a right decision. A lot of time people just wait and watch. They're not able to take a right decision because they do not have a scenario analyzer calculator. This calculator can tell you various scenarios. One question companies ask, tomorrow, if there's a downgrade and rupee goes to 85, what will be my position? Okay, let's see. Tomorrow rupee goes to 85, say in 1 month. Nobody knows, but let's take a scenario analyzer. What will be the MTM? 67 crores. Now the promoter is scratching his head. 67 crores. Do we have that much of LER limits? Will the bankers allow us that? He says, what if the rupee goes to 85 in next June? Okay, let's see. 01, 06, 2021. Let's see March. 01, 03, 8 crores. Now it went to 85 crores, it was 60. Now if it goes in March, it is only 8 crores. Why? Because a lot of these positions which was forwards has already been used. So his net MTM has come to 8 crores only. So if dollar rupee doesn't move now and he doesn't book an extra position, he is fine. So these kind of scenario is what the consultant helped his friend to actually do. And he was pretty comfortable. So I hope it's clear. Superb. Say yes, yes, yes. Excellent. Then what happens is that no discussion can happen without an economist discussion about where is the rupee. So he calls 3 bankers and asks them to take a presentation on where is the rupee head. And my friends, as I said in the beginning, forecasting is something where there are 2 kinds of forecasters, one who don't know and the other who don't know that he doesn't know, right? I mean, who knows what's going to be happening in the market? But we definitely look at probabilities because we are running a business. We cannot forecast, but we have to look at probabilities and what's happening around. So basically now we'll end this in 5 minutes. The basic probability is, of course, there are FII outflows. I mean, debt is continuous outflows. Equity, we got some money, but again, the net we are seeing outflow. India US differential is still there, so dollar rupee is still going to be bullish on that. Nifty is broadly range bound. Asian dollar index is kind of stronger right now, you know, and CAT to GDP is improving, you know, with a $10, we're going to get $15 billion of benefit. So oil is coming down, gold imports coming down, electronics imports come down. Obviously, things are going to improve. And crude oil prices coming down, which is bearish. So we feel it's a neutral view because RBI is at both sides we are seeing in the market. I mean, today they sold heavy dollars and crushed all the longs. And the lower levels, no matter how much the inflows were coming in, they were just building up reserves. I mean, $25 billion in no time. I mean, we are hitting $500 billion of reserves. Look at some basic maths. Now, when you want to know where the dollar rupee is going, look at this. In a normal case, our current account was around 57 odd billion, 12, 13 billion was net, difference, which has come down to say around 11 billion now. Export import was 12, 13 billion. It has come down to say 7, 8 billion around. Of course, if the economy improves, then obviously we are going to see more imports increasing. Services, exports might come down a little bit. Primary income, say considering flat, NRE flows might come down. A lot of people losing jobs, a lot of people coming from out. FDI, ECB, FPI. Now this is very fluid. Last time when situation was so tight, we never knew that Reliance money, Kotak money, Airtel money, MSCI money is going to come with such huge force. So much of inflows we saw last month. Agreed. 97,000 crore coming out of Reliance. You know, Kotak raising 2 billion, MSCI raising 1 billion. Immense money. Airtel is taking stake. A lot of promoters are selling stakes. A lot of flows. So 3 odd billion we expect FDI. ECB we expect 17, 18 billion. Possibly rollovers might happen. Net ECB flow. FPI if we expect 17, 18 billion net might go out. So net we expect 35 billion. So possibly the number which we were earlier feeling that there could be a net negative in the reserve amount actually is getting positive now. So possibly the current account could be 2% of the GDP surplus to 0.5% of the GDP because of lower import prices. And some of the factors which is playing dollar rupee and all this is important. For people who want to know the factors which is driving the market is state central finances. The recent S&P rating, when they kept stable, they highlighted very, very clearly that state and central finances are still a concern. They're expecting around 12, 13%. But if the rise in COVID happens and if they have to spend more money, they have to do some kind of monetization of deficit, then possibly this could go up. Companies are extremely dependent on foreign exchange loans. The ECB numbers is close to around 400 billion, 40 billion rollovers and 40 billion unhedged positions. Now, if there is a downgrade, the probability has come down, but if there is, in case they are not able to meet their fiscal deficit targets or the NPA situation in the banking sector, like we know, 18-20% of the banking sector is NPA, right? You agree? So much of moratorium across NBFCs, across banks, and the top court may also have a very comfortable stance for the borrowers there. So that is one issue, skeletons of banking. Now, if US economy starts improving and they said they're going to print what? 120 billion every month now, after the 3 trillion they printed earlier. If they're going to print that kind of money and slowly if they're going to bring it down, the stock markets, the commodity markets across the world has gone on liquidity, right? Nothing has changed. Now, if it's a liquidity driven market and they start reducing their printing, the money might come out of emerging markets like India. Now, that's one risk. And RBI has been continuously accumulative reserves and not going the rupee, letting the rupee appreciate. Why? They might be saving for the raining days. If they have more reserves, they can go and sell dollars at the higher levels and let not rupee depreciate. And one very interesting point which is coming in right now is that possibly if the rupee, if they spot the reserves say at 75, 74 half, and they sell those reserves at 76 half, 77, they're going to book the profit and they're going to pass a lot of these reserves as dividends to the government. But this is also a speculation which is going in the important, and this is important. In terms of good points, the lower crude prices, which is going in the market, liberalization in terms of capital account. I mean, we all know, right? The NDF has been opened, longer working hours for the rupee, etc., etc. FPI have been increased, their relaxations have happened because they want to list India in the global Barclays Bloomberg Index, which can bring in $12-14 billion. I mean, MSCI emerging market, we are already getting equity flows. We got around $1 billion. So promoters are raising overseas funds, reserve buffer. They are doing NDF market, so they are doing a lot of relaxations over there. They can intervene in exchanges, in NDF, in a lot of, plus good monsoons. Agriculture is doing great. I mean, look at the agricultural stocks and agricultural equipment. The farm sector is doing good. So these are what. So when I say about a dollar rupee view, I always say, I am no forecaster, I'm not an astrologer, I don't know. But we have a techno fundamental model where we try to put in these numbers and keep changing it on a daily basis. and we do a back testing across 36 factors and try to put a probability on the ranges of dollar rupee. And the ranges is of course neutral to a depreciating bias right now. This is the broad range. If there is any revisions, of course, we share it with our clients on a daily basis. So basically, my dear friends, what we understood was a scientific way of risk management. And that's your takeaway. We understood the concept of measuring risk, return, VAR in a very simple manner. You don't have to be a CFO or a chartered accountant to understand that. We understood your best case scenario, worst case scenario, your stop loss. And as a promoter of CFA, write a number which you want to lose and then look at the upside. We understood some important structures. We understood how to bring certainty in your hedge portfolio and the broad factors in USD INR. And I think you must have had very interesting takeaways. I see out of 160 people, 130 people are still on. Amazing. Thanks for being there. And my friends, please put in your questions. And when Mr. Gupta was again thinking, he had these questions in mind, and which I am going to cover in my second session, which is going to be on 10th of July, which is on your borrowings, which is again a various profitable area where people can put their brains in, and your investment policies. I mean, there are so much of cash-rich companies who are putting money in bonds, corporate bonds, taking duration risk, short-term risk. This is what we're going to cover next. So Mr. Gupta wants these answers also from you. So we're going to take some more interesting polls from all of you. And now I am going to open this for you to put in questions, and I'm going to answer 5 or 6 questions. This has been a 1 hour, 15 minutes discussion. Thank you so much. Please put in your question, and we're going to take it one by one. Just stay tuned. We're going to take these questions now. Please put in your questions. Getting some questions. So the first question I get is, can you elaborate on cost plus USD profit? So basically, it's a process of calculating the rate in which you are going to quote your buyer. So say your INR cost is 10,000 rupees. You want to put in a profit of say 10% to it. Say 10,000 plus 10%, say 11,000, convert it into current USD rate. If you want to add premium, you can add premium for your cushion, and then quote that price to your buyer. So the buyer gets a USD price, which he can compare with other countries where he's also importing from. That's the way of calculating your cost plus USD profits. Any other questions? Now, I am asked that is the right time to book forwards. Again, every time is the right time and every time is not a right time. You have to understand the risk management. You have to understand what kind of business you are going to do next year. Is your business coming down? Is business going up? What kind of hedge ratio you need to maintain? What kind of benchmarking you need to have? And I would strongly suggest, since things are so uncertain, I mean, nobody knows what's going to happen in 6 months. Maybe COVID is out. Maybe we don't get a vaccine. Maybe today you're doing business with US. Tomorrow you're not able to do business in US. Maybe Europe is shut. Europe is open. So do through options. The rupee comes to 78, 80. Do options. Take a 1 year option. Pay 1 rupee premium as I just showed. Cover your risk. Get a certainty of your cost. Quote it to a buyer. I think that's a great strategy. Is it better to book forward more than 1 year? My answer is no. Since certainty is not there. If you want to do for more than 1 year, use options. I think that's better. The volatility, as we saw, is 10%. The return is 3.9%. So at 3% premium or 4% premium, if you want to book forward for 1 year in such an uncertain environment, not a great idea. Until unless you have confirmed order for more than 1 year and you have defined the cost and there is no probability of that order to get cancelled. The question is, in today's environment, nothing is with 100% surety. So I think a combination of various option structures like range forward and put options, etc., will make more sense. Thanks, Sudhir. Well, I don't think right now people are asking that is there going to be any other uh, currency is going to be the reserve currency. I don't think it's so easy to replace the US dollar. 1933, 1971, and again, if you see the global trade volume, I think 80-85% is still in US dollar. And most of the foreign exchange reserves are held in US dollar. Now the question is, will US like to trade in China, Chinese currency? I don't think so. If Europe likes to trade in Chinese currency, no. So, or Japan, no. So I think US dollar is still going to be the reserve currency until something really big thing happens with regards to US solvency. Since most of the investments across the reserves, I mean, in India, look at the amount of foreign exchange reserves in India, which is put in the US or China or Japan. They can't let the dollar go down. If the dollar doesn't go down, I don't think there is a probability that there will be a change in the reserve currency status. If you have a confirmed order for 1 year and your costing is defined, then you should take a combination of forward and options provided your rates are locked, or you have a negotiation clause in your uh, agreement with your buyer. And that's what you should do. I'll take just one more question. Put in your questions. Mr. Gupta is engaged in export as well as import. I think he should net off his export minus import exposure, then make a risk management policy. If he is engaged in other cross currencies like Euro, GBP, etc., then he has to do a correlation matrix and then try to understand the risk of his portfolio and then design a strategy. And that strategy, he should test it based on a 90% probability, defining the best case and the worst case rate, defining his maximum downside, and then make a risk management policy out of it. But he should definitely have this thing written in a form of a risk management policy. So export minus import, you should net it off. That's what you should be doing. The question is, US dollar is in an increasing trend. Should we hedge? No right answer. Your costing is being protected. Yes, you should hedge, because if there is a dollar weakness globally, which can happen, I mean, nobody knows. Euro has been going up, GBP has been going up lately. So if there is a sudden dollar weakness because of any reason per se, then possibly rupee could also come down. In that case, you need to cover. But the point I want to make here is, if you're not sure, just use options and a combination of options and forwards. And if you don't know options, I think you should spend some time understanding options, because if you're not understanding options, I know world-class companies in India and globally who use options in a very sensitive, in a very sensible and a scientific manner, and using it, protecting their downside, and they're getting such excellent alpha out of this. With this, my dear friends, I'm going to end this presentation. Stay tuned. 10th July, next presentation on borrowings and investment policies. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking out time. You have spent 1 hour, 24 minutes, taken out that patience. Amazing audience, amazing concentration, and amazing participation. Thank you so much. You can contact us or our team over here, or Radhika or people who have been in touch with you. We'll be happy to assist you for any questions. And this would anyways get recorded. So feel free, ask for copy for it. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. Stay safe, stay healthy, and enjoy the volatility in markets. Thank you. Good night.